One of the biggest beliefs I hear from people trying to buy their first home is the idea that you need a six-figure deposit before you can even start. And for a lot of people, that belief is the only thing stopping them from getting into the market. The problem is that belief is based on rules that no longer fully apply. So in this video, I want to break down where that idea came from, what parts of it are outdated under current policy settings, and how people are actually getting into the market today without waiting years longer than they need to. Because the real risk for most first home buyers right now is not buying too early, it's waiting too long based on the wrong information. The idea that you must have a full 20% deposit comes from one place: Lenders Mortgage Insurance. For years, people were told if you put down less than 20%, you would pay LMI. So the assumption becomes that a 20% deposit was a hard rule, but that was never actually true. It was just the point where banks no longer charged insurance. And what has changed over time is that there are now multiple ways to avoid LMI without needing a 20% deposit at all. This includes government-backed schemes, family guarantee products, and specific lender policies where LMI is waived entirely. So when people say that you must have a 20% deposit, what they really mean is that they are working off an old framework. And that outdated framework is costing people years. Now that you understand where the belief came from, the next step is understanding what the government is actually guaranteeing and what it is not.
Most people think the safest move is waiting until they've saved a full 20% deposit. And I get why. Waiting feels safer. But here's the part that most people don't measure. There are actually two risks: the risk of borrowing more and the risk of waiting while prices and lending rules keep moving from underneath you. A smaller deposit doesn't change what you're buying. It changes when you get in. So the real question isn't how big is my deposit, it's which risk am I actually choosing to take on.
A smaller deposit does not mean that you are buying a cheaper home. It means that you are buying the same home sooner. This is where people get caught. They spend years trying to save the full 20% deposit, only to find out that the property has increased in value faster than they can save. So even though their savings balance is higher, their position is worse. Using a smaller deposit is about timing, not affordability. And once you understand that, the conversation shifts from fear to control. A lot of people assume they are not eligible when they actually are. There have been some recent changes to the scheme that expanded access significantly. Income caps have been removed. Purchase price caps have increased in many areas, up to 1.5 million in some locations. Another big misunderstanding is around what counts as a first home buyer. If you've not owned property for more than 10 years, you may still be eligible. This applies to both you and your partner. There's also a separate single parent scheme that allows deposits as little as 2% in certain circumstances. Most people rule themselves out without checking properly, and that is a costly mistake.
Here's where this becomes practical. The deposit usually isn't what stops people from buying. Borrowing capacity is. So before you assume that you're ready, ask yourself one question. If you borrowed at 95% today, could your income comfortably service the repayments without cutting your lifestyle to the bone? Because once you push into higher lending, repayments jump, buffers tighten, and deals fall over fast. So access gets you through the door, but capacity decides whether the plan actually works. If you haven't stress tested that properly, the deposit doesn't matter.
So what's happening is not that people are getting rejected, it's that they are ruling themselves out based on old information. And in a market that keeps moving, that assumption alone can cost you years. Another area that trips people up is the idea of genuine savings. Some lenders require at least 5% of the purchase price comes from genuine savings, whilst others do not. Some lenders will accept rental history as evidence. Some lenders will accept gifts or inheritance depending on the structure. There is no single rule. It is lender specific. The same applies to property types. The scheme applies to both new and existing property. The key restriction is off the plan purchases. Those do not generally qualify until the property is completed and can be valued. Again, this is where people assume rules that are not universal. Price caps are strict. If a property is even $1 over the cap for the location, the scheme will not apply. There is no discretion. Living requirements are also non-negotiable. You must live in the property on a genuine, ongoing basis. If you move out and convert it to an investment, the guarantee must be released. That can trigger significant LMI if the loan is still above 80%. This scheme is designed for people buying a home, not for backdoor investors. As for availability, this has also changed. The scheme no longer has limited annual places. As long as the program continues, spots are not running out. If you are unsure whether you qualify or want to know what you could realistically buy without guessing, you can book a call with myself or my team. We can sense check eligibility, borrowing capacity, and lender options properly so you are not making decisions based on assumptions. With that said, let's get back into it. Qualifying for the scheme does not mean you can borrow whatever you want. Borrowing capacity still applies. In many cases, someone may be able to get to service an 80% loan, but struggle at 95% due to the high repayments. This is why deposit access and borrowing power are two separate conversations, and why buying strategy without lending strategy quickly falls apart.
Just to zoom out for a moment, this is the real takeaway from this part. A lot of people assume that they're not eligible to buy property, but the rules have actually moved quietly in their favor. Why? Because income caps are gone, price caps are higher in a lot of areas, and even what counts as a first home buyer isn't as rigid as people think. So what's happening is not that people are getting rejected, it's that they're ruling themselves out based on old information. And in a market that keeps moving, that assumption alone can cost you years.
The process should be simple when done correctly. First, eligibility and borrowing capacity are assessed together. Then, a pre-approval is issued with the scheme allocation reserved. Once you find a property and move to formal approval, the allocation is locked in. Problems happen when people treat these as separate steps or work through with lenders who do not actually participate in the scheme. Not every bank offers it, so you need to take that into account. The goal for most buyers is eventually to refinance out of the scheme. That happens when the loan reaches 80% LVR through repayments, value growth, or both. In recent years, some buyers were actually able to exit within 12 months, others take longer. If life changes and you move out, the guarantee must be released. That can be expensive if not planned for properly. This is why forward planning matters from day one. The Home Guarantee Scheme genuinely helps people get into the market, but as more people use it, it also adds demand, and demand pushes prices. For those who understand the system and act early, they will benefit. Those who wait it out without a plan will fall behind. The most important question that you should ask yourself is simple. If prices move and lending tightens further, does your plan still work? If you want help answering that properly and you're ready to take the first step, feel free to book a call with myself or my team. We'll help you map out what's right for you by looking at the available options. And with that said, please like and subscribe to support the channel so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you in the next video.